Okay, so the weekend we had Colby versus Leon. What did we miss? What was the big thing that fight?
I think we missed Colby showing up. What do you think?
I feel like with this fight, it was like Leon beat Colby, but Leon was the only individual that actually showed up to fight. Like, it was like Leon. I'll be honest, I had high hopes in this fight, but it was just boring. Like, the end of it, I was like, honestly, I didn't third round, I kind of stopped watching it, which is a shame because this is like the highest level of MMA, but the reality of it is the fight was a bit of a snooze fest. I take it does take two to tango. Colby spoke quite a lot in the run-up to the fight, so I was expecting big things, but the fight just didn't perform. It was underwhelming. The way it ended was a little bit unfortunate because Leon Edwards had a dominant performance throughout the whole fight, but in the last round, Colby got on top and sat on him a little bit, so he didn't have that exclamation point. Even though Leon won, it wasn't like a Kamaru Usman knockout or domination from round to round. He comfortably coasted, but at the end, it just kind of it went out with a whimper, not a bang, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it just wasn't that, I don't know, as a fan, it wasn't that exciting, unfortunately.
I think it's a bad look for the champion to finish the round on the bottom as well. So we saw, if you remember that with Islam versus Volkanovski, Islam finished that fight, the first one, on the bottom, holding on, looking at the clock.
And everybody remembers that.
Everybody remembers that, and it's the same thing here. It's not only was the performance lackluster from Colby, not only was Leon pressing against somebody who should have been pressing him, that's what he would have prepared for, but at the very end, he's in bottom butterfly, just killing the clock rather than standing back up. And I think overall, GSP used to talk about bookending a fight. You do something at the very beginning, do something at the very end, and really stick in people's minds with the judges. And I think overall, it was just a bit of a bad look in terms of how massive a fight could be. And also, you think about how much Colby's built this fight. It's the last card of the year. It's a pay-per-view. You're at the top of that pay-per-view. People are expecting something a little bit special to round out the year with a bang. Wasn't there?
Well, it's like, I think this fight shows it's not just that you win the fight, it's how you win the fight. And if you go back to Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz, dominated all 4 rounds. Nate Diaz had one combination at the end, and that dominated the entire conversation. Like, post-fight, that's like all everyone ever talk about is how Nate Diaz rocked Leon Edwards at the end of it. Which is, I mean, if you're an athlete and you do 24 minutes perfectly, but 1 minute you slip up, it's just such a sad way. But I think it all brings down to, we think of like the run to the fight. There were some things that were said that were a little bit heated, a little bit controversial, bringing the dads into it, and rightfully so, everyone kicked off about that. And then you can't talk about this without talking about Duplessis and Sean Strickland, right? And it's like, for me, it feels a bit of a double standard. Like, we criticise Colby Covington for bringing a father into it, but when they were like making fun of like child abuse, it was almost like that was like fair game. What, do you think that's like a double standard, or are we like missing something?
I definitely think that people tolerate trash talk if you're charismatic and if you are winning. I think Conor got away with a lot of really intense trash talk because he was constantly victorious and because he was very, very charismatic. You have to remember that with a little bit of cheek, a little bit of a wink, and a little bit of delivery, you can say the same thing, but maybe not with such venom. And I think with Colby, that's where he peaked. He peaked in that press conference. Dana talked about the pay-per-view buys, so there's like a literal sort of financial show of him peaking at that moment, and then just didn't bring it to the fight.
He didn't, no.
It felt like a paycheck. And if you're going to go and earn yourself a paycheck, Leon Edwards, and I'm sorry to say it, but might not be the worst person to do this against, because Leon Edwards has shown that he's so intelligent as a champion that if he doesn't have to go into 3rd gear or 4th gear or 5th gear, he's not going to bring that to you. He is going to do what he needs to do to stay as a dominant champion. And that's one of the things that I love most about him. But if you don't bring a 3rd gear or a 4th gear, he's not going to bring it either.
That's interesting you say that as well about like winning. Like, did you see Squid Game, the TV show recently on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a bit of the guy where like he's trying to, if you haven't seen it at home, it's a funny one. He's got like, they've got to play this marbles game, right? And they've got to win the marbles. And he's paired with this woman. He's like, look, I want to do a throwing game. She's like, well, no, I don't want to do a throwing game. And they've got like 15 or 20 minutes to do it. The clock goes down to 1 minute. And he's like, well, I want to do a throwing game. I want to do a throwing game. And he was so confident, so cocky. It ends up losing the game and they both get eliminated. But it was almost like he was hated because he lost. But if he had won that and he was like, look, I'm going to win. I'm going to absolutely dominate this. And actually won, he potentially would have become a fan favorite. And I was saying to like my girlfriend, I was like, it's funny how your perception of how cool an athlete or a TV person is really linked to, are they actually effective at the thing they do? Like, you can trash talk, but if you don't back up and win, you just become a laughing stock. Like, if Colby would have won, I think he would have been like the golden child. People would have absolutely loved Colby Covington, despite what he said.
Yep.
But it's like you have to be able to back it up and deliver. If you can't back up and deliver, they just won't follow it.
I think that's the nature of a polarizing character, isn't it? Your tribe is all with you or not with you at all, you know. And Colby, that's part of the sort of like galvanizing the political side of things. It's like that political side wants to be with us. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
That's the thing that he's like pulling from. So if you are not winning and you're trying to polarize people into your tribe, like all you're essentially doing is tying a stink to your tribe. They don't want that at all.
They don't want that. But then it comes down to, like, let's be honest, like, if you just look at combat as like a physical thing, you're not looking at it properly. Like, it is definitely mental. Do we need to draw lines in terms of what topics are in or out? Because you can say things about people's parents dying, but at the end of it, you're going to get in there and going to try and make them unconscious anyway.
Yeah.
So do you think, like, for me personally, it's like mental warfare is a big part of the game, but at the same time, there's also a bit of like, well, like, what kind of sport do I want to be in? I don't want to be in an ugly sport where people are bringing up really deep personal things. Like, it just makes every fight way more emotionally traumatic than it physically needs to be. So I like the mental aspect, but I think it's just a little bit unprofessional, I think, to bring that stuff in.
It's so hit and miss, isn't it? Because if you look at Conor versus Jose Aldo, you would argue that entire fight was mental. You know, he talked about
mental.
At the weigh-ins, Jose's hand twitching, and you know, all he wanted him to do was just come and bomb me with that right hand, and it paid off in the most perfect way. Same thing, Ben Askren, Jorge Masvidal. Do you know what I mean? Jorge Masvidal talked a load of shit about Ben Askren shooting. Do you know what I mean? And then he sprinted across the cage, knowing that that's what Ben Askren's going to do. So it's all or nothing, it seems, because Leon Edwards was ice cold.
He was ice cold.
You
But
know,
like,
and he's always been ice cold.
It's true, but if I put my like devil's advocate cap on, I haven't got it with me now, but I was thinking about it. It'd be like, if you're going to fight Leon Edwards, I would want every advantage humanly possible. And if you could just get him off his game somehow, this guy may have like life-altering consequence if he head kicks you or something like that. Like, so there's an argument that says that if you're Colby, it's in your best interest to rattle him as much as possible. If he can be got to mentally, some guys it makes them stronger, and some guys it can make them more emotional. They bite on the face a little bit more, like we saw with Aldo. Maybe it's like quite opponent specific, but in the main, I might do. Let's just focus on the skills maybe a little bit more, and like let's not bring in dead family members if we can avoid it.
Yeah.
But if you do, you have to win. If you're going to talk about someone's family, you have to win the fight. Otherwise, you're just going to be laughing stock.
Anybody that I've seen do that tends to lose. You know, it tends to be they've almost gone so far off the other end. You know what I mean? So this is exactly what we saw with Dennis Frimpong and George Staines.
I thought he was pulling a Frimpong.
Yeah, and again, like, how much value are you going to get out of making that person that angry? Like, if they've got a poor gas tank, yeah, fair enough, all the rest of these things, but realistically, you just come across as a dick, and the people that you are relying on hating you to buy the pay-per-views and to turn up for the fight, you know, once you've lost, there's no more emotional connection to that anymore. Like, okay, he got his comeuppance, justice was served, let's move on. Do you know what I mean? I think you almost need to be that Darth Vader, that unkillable character, do you know what I mean, to pull off that heel, you know, or you need to really be the best in the world at it. And I think that's where Chael filled a niche. Like, if you think about people trash talking as well as Chael Sonnen in his era, name me the next 2 or 3 best trash talkers you can. Because it's hard to find them, because Chael stands out so far above the top. Like, he's the one that occupied that niche. And in today's day and age, there's not a whole lot of fantastic trash talkers. And I think Colby is doing what he feels like he needs to do for his career. You know, he's definitely got a lot of haters and a lot of people who want to see him get KO'd and all the rest of it. But bolstering pay-per-views without the skills to back it up, it's only got a short shelf life, in my opinion.
That's what made Conor McGregor so special. Yes, he talked with talk, but actually when he got in there, he delivered and he finished with it. Yeah. But I think this brings us on to the big question around Sean Strickland versus Duplessis. Yep. It's not news that they got into a little bit of a scuffle near the front rows of the Octagon, right? They can't even wait till January, man. What's going on? They can't even wait a couple of months anymore.
My favourite part of this is that they had a bit of a back and forth, and Sean Strickland, wanting to get to Duplessis, politely asks a child to move out of the way.
Could you move?
Just move over here for a second. Yeah, right, let's go. You know, and he's straight into the brawl. You know, like if Sean Strickland isn't the character of the year, then I don't know who is. Whether it's confronting somebody outside of his house, it seems like he's game all the time.
He's game. He's ready.
But he's so mentally present. It doesn't seem like he's driven by anger. It seems like, I just love fighting. Let's go.
And it's so funny because like every UFC fighter has an immense drive. They're either running away from something or running to something. Either the pursuit of greatness, I want to be the best in the world, or maybe you're running away from, maybe you were bullied when you were young, or whatever the reason might be, right? You're running away from something. But like, the reason why I absolutely love Sean Strickland is because Sean Strickland is authentic. Sean Strickland is real. I just know that he'd be the same if I met him in a bar or wherever you met Sean Strickland. You know you're getting the exact same guy. And people love that. Like, did you see the clip? He was at the, I think it was like a bull riding competition. And they're all drinking like Bud Lights, they're all having a good time. He's like, all right, what are your balls? You come fight me. And Dana White's like, Sean, no, you're not riding any balls. Like, someone get a Bud Light out of that guy's hand right now. Like, he's a larger than life character.
There's not much difference, I don't think, between the inner dialogue and the outer dialogue.
There's nothing. I mean, it's like a pass.
It's just a one-way street.
It's a one-way street. Yeah.
And I love that to pieces. Probably could do with a little bit less of the sort of casual racism and homophobia. You know what I mean? But I think that also, in a weird way, kind of adds to his authenticity, because you really do realize, like, actually, you're getting this dude completely unfiltered.
You do, and it's also like, if you say something that has like a slight negative like effect on your perception, you are perceived as very, very honest.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't say that, like, why would you say something that makes you bad unless you're like a really honest guy? So, okay, if you were a brand and you wanted to sponsor Sean Strickland, what brand do you think would be perfect for him?
Jesus Christ. There used to be a brand for the UFC called Dude Wipes.
Dude.
And like,
Dude Wipes.
honestly, they would be so spot, like, Sean Strickland comes across as a dirty dude.
He could do
Dude
wipe. Get
like, that guy needs a dude wipe, doesn't he? You know?
Dude wipe as a concept could never have existed. Like, it's just like, I don't know, like, that's so bad.
Yeah, so dude wipes, I don't know, bro. Like, I think it'd just be the meme.
Do you not see him being sponsored by
Nike? Maybe like
Nike?
a mouthwash, do you know what I mean? Like,
You think Nike or Gymshark, they'd be a bit too controversial. Maybe a Captain
if you were
Crunch.
CEO of that company, would you take that risk?
No, I'd be like, I'd be in constant threat for my share price. I'd be like, what's Sean done that?
No.
But I'd be like, if you're polarizing, like if your brand like focuses on like niche, cool personalities, like maybe you're a little bit edgy. So maybe like Liquid Death, the water company.
Yep.
They like edgy personalities. Like, it has to be aligned with your brand values. That you're honest, radical honesty.
If you were a gun manufacturer, it'd be all over that, right?
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you were good,
or like home alarms or something after the most recent ones. Maybe even like, I don't know, a boxing glove or some sort of like hand wraps or something like.
Dude, Sean Strickland could be a character in GTA 6. I can absolutely see that. Like, if they just built him in the game, I think he'd be perfect.
I think like I'd be playing that character.
100%. How do you think the fight's going to go versus Duplessis when we actually step in there?
Honestly, man, I feel like I'm just going to be constantly counting Sean Strickland out, because his performance against Israel Adesanya, like, is that the norm or is that the abnorm? Because, like, if that's the norm, then you've got to think, like, Sean's got a great chance of keeping his distance and understanding. But for me, I think the thing about Dricus is that he is incredibly smart in the cage. He can adapt. He has a very, very, very well-rounded set of skills. He can beat people like Robert Whittaker on the feet, and he can beat others on the ground. And like, I think it's that well-roundedness that gets the job done. I would predict that it's Duplessis via some sort of ground game win.
I think that's a good observation, man. I don't think Duplessis beats Sean Strickland on the feet. I feel like Sean Strickland beat Israel Adesanya standing. I don't think you can do that as a fluke. I feel like if you actually beat him in an MMA fight standing, I feel like you just are that good. I don't think it's a guy that you fluke against. When we talk about flukes, we talk about maybe the puncher's chance coming to reality. Like Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez won. We saw them fight 3 times. We saw Cain Velasquez won quite a lot. He had that overhand right over the ear, right? So I don't count his win against Izzy as a fluke. I think Sean is just that good at the fundamentals that he can just shut your game down, and it's tough to do anything about it. So that's going to put the emphasis on Duplessis to, yes, into strike, has to get the fight to the ground, I think, if he's going to get a finish or win it. So then it's clear how good is his takedown defense versus his offense, right? And his last fight, Duplessis won standing up pretty handily, right? So I don't know. It's going to be a tough one, but I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to back Sean Strickland for this one. I think.
Oh, mate.
I think the Seans are coming for all the belts.
Right, I'd be putting pizza on that right
Even
now.
a pizza on that, man, yeah.
Because the thing that impresses me about, and I like that we disagree about this, because Duplessis, when he turns up, he just has something planned. Like, he doesn't show up like, I'm going to invest in my skills, and I'll see what your skills are about, and we'll have a scrap. he comes in and I have adapted my skill set specifically for the things that you do well. And I think Sean Strickland, the things that he does well are out there for everybody to see. You know, in that performance versus Israel Adesanya, I mean, he didn't go much past like 4 or 5 techniques in that fight. Do you know what I mean? And he just did those insanely well. But Dricus's game is really deep, and I think he's got the answer for you if you only have like 3 or 4 techniques on display, 4 or 5 techniques. So I'm could be completely wrong. Maybe Sean changes his style up. Maybe he comes out in southpaw and does something crazy. But I really think if he comes out and tries to anti-Israel Adesanya Duplessis, like I think he's got a really tough time.
So it's funny you say that. I think you're right. Like Duplessis' skill tree seems deeper than Sean's, but I feel like I don't think you could argue it was a style matchup with Israel Adesanya with Sean Strickland because he matched up well. But I feel that Sean can adjust the fundamentals enough for any fighter to win. It's like he's not doing spinning wheel kicks, right? He's not doing spinning back kicks to the leg. He's not going and these crazy like tangents. He does the basics.
Expose himself very
No.
much.
But his top pressure, boxing aggressive base style with the kicks. Like if he was just to add in calf kicks to his game for this, and make that like a feature to really wear on his front leg. You know, I can imagine Sean making 1 or 2 small adjustments, especially considering how fired up Sean Strickland is right now. I could see him coming out with that Rocky mentality and taking him out and actually finishing him within a couple of rounds.
Okay.
I also want him to win personally. I don't know if that's affected my prediction, but I'll be clear about
Maybe
that.
a little bit, yeah. And finally, I just want him to win.
Why are you asking me? That's exactly why. Yeah. But you could fight that in a couple of months.
It'll be a great fight, and I'm not gonna let you off that, Pete. So we will have a bet about that.
I'd rather do a 2-hour arm workout.
2 hour arm workout.
2-hour arm workout. If he doesn't win, I will do the Rich Piana. I'll do a quarter of the Rich Piana 8-hour arm workout.
Okay. So if Duplessis wins, then I'll lead you on a leg day, and you've got to accept any drop sets that we do on the leg day.
Sets.
You can lead the arm day the other
Done.
way around. 2 hours.
Nah, get ready for some big biceps, man. I want to get some new
Massive
t-shirts.
quads, mate. That's happening.
Perfect.